Hi, and welcome back. We're going to finish up today on the top part of the aeronautical decision-making flowchart, the part that includes the four things that go into every situation: the pilot, the aircraft, the environment, and the external pressures. Today, we're going to focus on the last one, the external pressures. External pressures are just that. They're things from outside of our flight that may make us feel like we have to press on with the flight regardless of threats that we've identified. Some examples from the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge include somebody waiting at the airport for the flight's arrival. Many pilots suggest that for the first 300 or 400 hours of experience, you avoid situations where people are going to meet you at the destination airport because it provides undue pressure on you to continue on in spite of deteriorating weather or equipment malfunctions. It's also important to be careful about passenger expectations. The willingness to disappoint your passengers and say no is part of the responsibility of being a pilot in command. It's also important not to try to impress people. One of the best things about being a pilot is taking other people for a ride, especially people that have never been in the air before. Just know that simply taking off, flying around the pattern, and landing again is going to impress the heck out of them. You don't need to do a short field landing. You don't need to do the stall demonstration for them or a steep turn or any of those things. And in fact, any one of those things could turn the experience into something really negative for people. The desire to satisfy some personal goal also can play a part. Get homeitis is a real common one. Also, your goals as a flight student, trying to get your rating done. And then, of course, pride. You want to be able to do everything that the aircraft will allow you to do. And so you will have a tendency to press the limits of short field capabilities and soft field capabilities and so forth. There are some pressures that are specific to the flight training. I am guilty, if you want to call it that, of placing pressure on you, the student, to get your flight training done. The flight schools put pressure on you to get the aircraft back on time. It's important. There's somebody waiting for it. But that is an example of an external pressure. It may be your organization, but it is external to your flight. Lesson completion pressure in order to move on to the next block of learning. You've been waiting weeks and you finally got your hands on an airplane or helicopter, and so you just have to go. Another thing that has played a part in a lot of incidents is some sort of scheduled activity after the flight, work, for instance. There are all sorts of things that can put external pressure on your flight training. So how do we manage external pressures? One way to do it is to use the SOPs. These are the rules that are on top of the FARs that your flight school or employer places on the operation in order to manage the safety of the company. Fall back on those. Be willing to simply blame it on the SOP that you're not allowed to do certain things. You should also plan for some extra time, especially for cross-country flights, so that you don't feel rushed at one of the intermediate landing spots to press on with the flight without fueling up. Manage your passengers' expectations is a really big one. People need you to explain to them prior to the flight that this is not an airline. It's not like big airplanes where you can expect to actually land at your destination. First of all, big airplanes don't always do that either. They get diverted. But it's it's far more likely to happen in a small aircraft, and it's important that you be upfront with your passengers about that. And then finally, self-assess. Is my decision making being influenced by some sort of external pressure? If so, I need to break away, maybe land, maybe just stop and think for a while I fly along about the decision I'm about to make. There is legitimate pressure that is on you. I mentioned some of those under flight training. We want you to make progress and so that you can move towards your goals and succeed. But which of that is legitimate and which is excessive? PHI, a large helicopter company in the Gulf of Mexico that does both oil rig support and air ambulance work, did a really good video looking at what is legitimate pressure to fly and what is not. I would like you to go ahead and watch that. You'll find that link to that video in content.